Welcome back to Fourth and Pain, the only pro wrestling show hosted by an NFL player and a weight loss champion. He, of course, Redskins defensive end Adam Carriker. I am the weight loss champion Chuck Carroll. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at Fourth and Pain, online at fourthandpain.com. And before we go any further, before we dive into the segment, my old high school reached out to me this week. They said, hey, Chuck, can you help us out? Just give us a mention. It's the 50th anniversary of George C. Marshall High School in Falls Church. And they're holding a golf tournament in their honor, doing some fundraising for the boosters. So that's going to be October the 5th at Penderbrook Golf Club. Go to gcmptsa.org to register. I know that they're going to have barbecue. It's a shotgun start, 4-player scramble, a whole lot of fun. Did you know, actually, my first job was at a golf course? Best job I ever had.
I was not aware of that.
Oh, yeah, man. Cleaning the golf carts. I mean, taking out the trash. I was a total errand boy. But free greens fees. And if you've ever played golf, you know that golf is outrageously expensive. Made it all worthwhile.
I guarantee it did. And you know what? You got to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely. And so thus began my tour on the PGA. I was
on the PGA?
The PGA tour, yeah. I bet you didn't know that. On the weekends. Yeah, swinging the club from Tiger Woods. Yeah,
I don't believe you at all.
Yeah, no. So let's talk a little bit.
Hey, not to interrupt you here, but on Twitter, I see that Roger Goodell is trending. I bet they're saying wonderful things. That's just totally random out of nowhere. Sorry. MySpace, ironically, is also trending on Twitter. Yeah, I find that ironic as well.
Wait, I thought MySpace was dead, man.
I thought they were dead, buried, and like out to sea.
Seriously, the last I heard, I think that Justin Timberlake had purchased it, and so that was 5-6 years ago. And then, of course, Facebook comes along and takes over the world.
See, I thought he was into Facebook. Huh? Oh, maybe that's just the movie. Never mind. I'm confused.
Hashtag irony. But yeah.
Back to the show.
Back to the show. Let's talk a little bit about WWE. Of course, Kane and Daniel Bryan, they have themselves a brand new nickname, a tag team name now. Team Hell No. What's your take on that?
I dig it. I like it. I was actually personally rooting for Team Friendship. Just because it was so lame and terrible, it would have fit them perfectly.
Oh, God, it was so lame. That, and I believe that teamwork was also one of the choices that WWE fans were going to be able to vote on. If either one of those two would have won, friendship or teamwork, I couldn't continue to be on the Kane and Daniel Bryan bandwagon.
I'm still rooting for Team Friendship. You know, it's so horrifically horrible that I just loved it.
I just see visions of unicorns and rainbows.
Exactly. It would have been awesome.
No, it would have been horrible.
Team Hell No is pretty good, though.
And, of course, their segments in the diner with the anger management therapist, again, priceless. And it was good to see Mae Young is still alive and well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Gerald now.
Gerald the waiter, of course, yes. Kane, we learn now, is a short order cook somewhere in Albany, New York during his downtime and goes under the name of Gerald. But another big thing on Raw this week, the match between Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler, a singles match. Main event caliber. That was one of the big takeaways for me this past week. Unbelievable match. I think that it's only going to do well to serve Dolph Ziggler in the future as he continues to push toward a title run. Of course, he still has the money in the bank that he can cash in at any time. And this was one of those matches, Adam, it was so good that despite the fact Kofi lost, he really didn't take a hit. He really honestly did not take a hit whatsoever. Unbelievable WrestleMania-style match.
It's one of those matches where it was so good, it was so just fun to watch that both guys come out better for it. John Cena gets a lot of flack for losing to The Rock at WrestleMania, but ever since then, not that he wasn't big time before. I mean, John Cena's name has been elevated. So I feel like that's what happened with both these guys. Now, obviously, they're not to that level. They're working Mr. Money in the Bank up to that level for when he probably eventually wins the title. But I feel like this was a great match, elevated both of them.
And, of course, Vicky Guerrero had a drink thrown on her, which was also interesting. And
I love that.
She and R-Truth were ejected from ringside. And so it was just a good, clean match to watch. If you have it on your DVR, go back and check it out.
You know who my wife's least favorite person in the entire wrestling industry is?
Do tell.
Right now.
Vicky Guerrero.
Vicky, she cannot stand her. Every time excuse me, she's like, oh my God, turn the channel, Adam. Like, she cannot stand that.
Well, I'm just impressed that your wife watches Raw with you on Monday nights, to tell you the truth.
Well, she's like a closet person. She won't let anybody know, but she's in the other room. She's watching, and, what's funny is there's been a few times when things have happened or I've talked about things, and she'll be like, oh, you're talking about Ric Flair. But then and immediately she was like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like she's kind of closetish about it. So
Who's her guy? Who's her secret guy? Who does she cheer for? Is she a Cena fan?
when I was in college, we used to play SmackDown versus Raw all the time, and she was always Triple H. That was always the guy she played with. I was always Goldberg, but she was always Triple H.
So I guess that's one guy that we probably shouldn't have on the show just in case.
I'm thinking I'll just kick him in his quad tendon if there's any issues. Although he could do the same thing to me.
Takes
so
one to know
I actually want to talk to him. Hey, what was your recovery like and all that? It'd be interesting to have him on the show, I think.
Yeah, Caitlin, let's set that one up.
Let's work that out.
But John Cena, he has elbow surgery this past week. Well, actually 2 weeks ago at this point. Cleans up a lot of stuff in his elbow, and didn't think going into it that he was going to be out all that long. And now it seems like he's going to be out legitimately for 6 weeks. And I still think that given the significance of that injury, I don't know exactly what was cleaned up in there. All they said was that the damage inside that left elbow or right elbow was far worse than Dr. James Andrews first thought. And so now Cena says he's going to rush back and be ready in time for Hell in the Cell, where he's going to face CM Punk. Rushing back, whether it be football, whether it be wrestling, that always strikes me as being a bad idea.
It's one of those things where, because I'm kind of the same way. It's like, if there was any chance I could get back on the field this year, I'd be all about it. Even if there's a certain amount of risk to it, it's in us. It's part of the competitive nature. You don't want to be out. You want to be out there doing what you do. And I can completely understand and relate. Is it the smartest thing in the world? Probably not. But that's kind of what makes us who we are.
No. Well, Cena's a long-term investment, and love him or hate him, he is good for the WWE. And I would just be concerned if I were the company that we're putting him in a position to perhaps shorten his career and thus cut off the cash cow that is Cena.
I'm actually curious to see, because these next few weeks, I don't know if he's going to be on Raw or not. I get the feeling he's not until that pay-per-view. How the WWE progresses, because there hasn't been I can remember one Cena-less Raw in the past few years, but that's really been it. So it's going to be completely different without, seeing John Cena every week. I wonder how Raw is going to progress.
I don't know. He says that he's still going to be there despite the injury. Obviously, if he and CM Punk are going to face each other at the next pay-per-view, he is going to need to have some sort of a television presence, even if he's not wrestling actively. But it looks like, in the interim, CM Punk could have a new challenger, and an interesting one at that. Of course, the close of Raw saw Ryback there standing and staring down CM Punk in the backstage area. And it makes me wonder, Adam, is this too much too soon?
Too soon. I mean, the guy, it wasn't maybe just a few weeks ago, and he was beating up on people that we'd never even seen before and we'll never see again. He just beat, who did he beat? The guy with the beard. Didn't he beat somebody who actually had a name?
Damien Sandow?
Damien Sandow. And then he beats the Intercontinental Champion last night.
Non-title match.
Non-title match. But it's like he's just finally starting to wrestle people that we actually recognize who they are, and he's going to make the leap all the way up to CM Punk. Now, it's probably going to be a long build-up, and maybe I was referring to maybe a big-time match at WrestleMania. Maybe this is going to be the build-up to WrestleMania, which is quite a while from now. But to me, still, I don't know. It's just too soon. It's kind of like when Sheamus won the belt right away. And all I could think of was, where did this guy come from? How does he have the belt already? And it just felt like it was too soon. I feel like it'll hurt him if he gets it too soon.
I'm inclined to agree. Remember, when WCW, and I hate to keep bringing it back to this, but when WCW was launching Goldberg, they really took their time in developing that streak. And I don't know exactly what Ryback's undefeated number is, but I guarantee it's nowhere in the hundreds where Goldberg was before he got his title.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, Goldberg was at least a year, if not more. Goldberg was wrestling guys with names that we recognized and knew and saw on a weekly basis for quite a while. I actually got a tweet last night. Ryback or Goldberg, who would win? Who would win?
Oh,
who you got?
Hands down, Goldberg. All day, every day. You could tie both of Goldberg's hands behind his back, and he's going to win.
Oh, I agree. I don't know about the hand thing, but I think Goldberg's going to win. Obviously Goldberg's my guy. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. Power, explosion, speed, all that stuff. Ryback is impressive. He's got the 3 lines that he repeats that are kind of cool, that are catchy. But I got to go with Goldberg hands down. But I feel like it's way too soon for him to be thrust into that picture. I mean, let him win the Intercontinental title, the tag team title. Let him have a couple of matches against some bigger names first.
But still, the fan part of me, when I texted you and I saw it, I said the ending of Raw, ... Wow.
You did.
There's part of me that's like, okay, well, this is at least, very different. It's a different guy that's going to be at the top. And I'm really curious to see if, I don't expect him to win, but whether he can carry a good match. And that's really what I'm looking for out of Ryback. And he's an interesting enough character where I don't want to see him fade into oblivion, basically. And so that's my concern. If he doesn't get the title off of CM Punk, then the Ryback guy is just going to go the way of the dodo, and I would hate to see that. I
completely agree, and that's what happens when somebody does something too soon. And even if he wins it, everyone's going to be like, really, already? And if he loses, obviously, he had his shot, and he's going to kind of fall back, maybe into oblivion or whatever. But I hope they give it a proper build at least, maybe to WrestleMania or whatever it is. I don't know. Even the fan part of me isn't crazy about it at this point.
It's just interesting, but you know what? They have a whole creative writing staff that probably knows the stuff a lot better than we do. Obviously, better than I do, because I can't pick a match to save my life.
I disagree. They don't know what they're doing. No, I'm just kidding. They do know what they're doing, but I'm a fan of Ryback, and I just don't want something to go awry with it, if you will.
Oh, nice play on words there. Yeah. Well done.
Thank you.
But on the other side of the break, we're going to speak to your trainer and a guy that has actually trained The Rock as well. And it could be a Rock CM Punk showdown at the Royal Rumble. So that's going to be really interesting to hear about how The Rock prepares for movie roles, to hear how The Rock gets ready for wrestling matches. We're going to be speaking with Billy Beck on the flip side.
Absolutely. I mean, he actually knows a little bit about fighting as well. He kind of grew up, fighting and making money that way a little bit before he got into the personal training thing. So I think that's probably how he got connected with The Rock a little bit as well.
Very interesting. This is Fourth and Pain on the flip side. Billy Beck, don't go anywhere.